Hey, this is Matt from NerdNewsToday.com here at New York Comic Con 2016 in the Dark Horse booth. I'm here now with Ethan Young. Ethan, how's it going today?
Really good. Thank you so much for having me.
Now, you just did a panel for your new book, Bridget Lee. So tell us a little about what this is.
Well, Bridget Lee is the Battles of Bridget Lee is basically a soft sci-fi allegory of the Mulan folktale. It's young adult. It talks about this ex-combat medic who has to take care of these orphans in an occupied Earth. And the aliens are called the Marauders. So she works as this outpost, and she basically has to protect these people and these orphans. So, you know, within these 80 pages, you learn about her, you learn about her past, you learn about what life is like at the outpost, Farfall, and basically what happens after that. And there's, you know, there are larger themes of self-determination, resilience, and also it's all underscored by some sci-fi action.
Reading the book, I kind of felt there were some similarities in themes to Nanjing, the Burning City, which came out last year. Great book. It's been doing great for you, I know. So am I on the right track here? Are there any similarities kind of thematically between these two stories?
A little bit. There's the war setting itself is simply a tool to create an immediate sense of tension for the reader. With Nanjing, it was more to examine the tragedy of the Nanjing massacre, and with the Battles of Bridget Lee, it basically gives us a setup of what daily life is like for these basically human survivors. And so certain themes such as, you know, the struggle to survive are certainly there. In terms of like a direct parallel, obviously with Nanjing it's historical, and with Bridget Lee I get to veer off and take the story in many different areas.
Now, you basically went from historical story into science fiction. A little bit of a jump there. Is this something? Which direction, I guess, do you want to go into more? Are you cool doing more of this kind of work, or this kind of work, or you want to do a balance?
I wouldn't mind a balance. I mean, with Nanjing, it was something that it was an idea that was floating around in my head after high school. You know, I had learned about the massacre, and I always had this interest in history, so there was a part of me that felt, well, not enough people know about this incident or about China's involvement in World War II in general, and that's what really kind of galvanized me to pursue Nanjing, the Burning City. But after high school, after I quit college, you know, I floated around, you know, worked odd jobs, I was trying to get my freelance career going, and so Nanjing just was put on the back burner. And so, you know, since that was my first big book, a lot of people kind of just know me for that. And in terms of science fiction and genre in general, that's something that is also close to my heart. And, you know, I guess I don't really want to be labeled one way or the other, but like you said, you notice the similar themes. And so I think I want people to really kind of just look at the storytelling and the mood and the pacing more than just the genre.
Now, I don't want to name names here, but I've walked around Comic-Con this year, other years, and I've seen work by many Asian American artists, but there's no Asian American characters in their books. And so Bridget Lee, Asian character, Nanjing, of course, many Asian characters. So let's talk about that. I mean, this industry, it's still not really, for Chinese Americans, still it seems very narrow. And you're doing a lot to kind of fix that. But let's talk about the state of the industry right now. Where do you see it? Is it shifting at all towards more of this type of representation?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, you know, it's interesting that you mentioned that, because you know, we have basically like several industries, really, when you think about the direct market, and then you think about the library market and the book market. So yeah, like maybe people in your typical comic shop, maybe they're not talking about Raina Telgemeier as much, but you know, you go to the like Scholastic Book Fair, that's all they talk about. That's all those young kids are really craving right now, and that's what they're anticipating. Like, oh, when's the next Raina Telgemeier book coming out, or Noelle Stevenson book is coming out, or you know, maybe one of Gene Yang's books, like Young Secret Coders. And you're right, even though there is a lot of, you know, talented Asian American cartoonists working out there, a lot of times it's almost like this kind of self-erasure of their identity when they're drawing or when they're creating their own stories. Maybe part of that is simply what it is that they can actually sell. I mean, when I first pitched the Battles of Bridget Lee, there was a part of me that felt, okay, if we can't call it Mulan, now I have to sell it as just like an original Asian American sci-fi protagonist. And you know, it's always an uphill battle when you're talking about making a new series that's not, you know, it's a new series. There's no franchise, there's no established audience for it. And on top of that, it's like, yeah, I want to create a character that's more diverse and that can represent more people.
Now, in terms of this positive representation for Asian Americans and Asians in comics, I mean, again, Bridget Lee, it's really, I don't want to call it a first of its kind, but in a lot of ways it is. It's also a female lead. So why the choice to make this a female lead?
Well, the Mulan allegory calls for that. But also, there were just a lot of real-life inspirations. Like my mom is a really huge influence on me, and just a lot of, you know, female friends, my wife. And so Bridget Lee is in many ways just kind of this amalgamation of all these different inspirations. And then on top of that, you know, the story touches upon very subtly the one-child policy that China used to have, and which resulted in an initial explosion of female orphans because of the way Chinese society just valued the boys over the girls. And so that's just that kind of systemic misogyny that, you know, you see in a lot of societies, and it still permeates this, a lot of societies. And it was just something that I wanted to tackle just on a small level with Bridget Lee. Like, it's a young adult book, so you can't get too heady into it. Like, you can't get too ham-fisted about it, or maybe you can, I don't know. But it's just, you know, it's something where it's a very subtle element of this book, and if you notice it and you know what I'm trying to tackle, I think you'll get it. Some people might not. Some people might think that, like, you know, it's just, it might feel forced or contrived to them. But I think when you grow up as an Asian American, like, I've been alive for 33 years, so I've been around when it was still much more socially accepted to just, like, mock Asian Americans in media all the time, whether it's movies or TV or what have you. So, you know, if you've never kind of felt that kind of marginalization, it's going to be invisible to you. So that's one of the things that the book tackles as well.
Now, every comic creator always puts a little bit of themselves into their books. So what part of you is in, let's say, both these books? What part of Ethan Young is actually part of these graphic novels?
I don't know, maybe my sense of humor. It can be kind of dry and snarky sometimes, and like with Nanjing, even though it's about a very serious topic, sometimes humor is the best coping mechanism. And so the humor that these characters have in Nanjing, it's to kind of alleviate some of the terror that they're witnessing. And with Bridget Lee, I think there's probably a little bit of my personality in all of the characters and all of their narratives, probably just sprinkled throughout.
So what are you working on now?
Well, I am currently like 75–80% done with Pilgrim Finch, which is my digital comic for the Stila app on the iPhone. And after that, who knows? If Bridget Lee is successful, then I can do further installments, which I would love to do, just because I feel there is a lot more to the story to explore and expand upon.
I personally would like to see maybe an animated series of Bridget Lee. I mean, I feel like all of your work has been very cinematic, and it's a great testament to what you create. Do you see any of this kind of stuff being brought to the screen? I mean, I don't know if that's something you're pursuing right now, but is that something you'd like to have happen?
Yeah, I mean, I certainly wouldn't mind. I was in some preliminary talks with someone who was interested in Nanjing, but it never really went past any initial just chit-chat because, you know, I guess I have no experience in that area, in that arena, so the wheels turn very slowly. If someone approaches me tomorrow or next week about Bridget Lee, then I'm certainly open to having the conversation.
Well, I hope it happens, and I hope there's also sequels for Bridget Lee. I mean, do we have any of that maybe down the line?
Yeah, like I said, I'm hoping. It all boils down to, it's a very boring answer, but unfortunately it all boils down to like a numbers game. And so, but I do have the outlines for volumes 2 and 3, so I would definitely love to get an opportunity to do those.
So in other words, everybody that watches this has to buy this book.
Yeah, please. Please.
Please, please. All right, so the book, again, Nanjing the Burning City, Battle of Farfall, Bridget Lee. How do we find out more about Ethan Young?
Well, you can find me on Twitter, on Instagram, on Facebook. I have a Tumblr, which is popmyth, popmyth.tumblr.com. My old webcomic is talescomic.com, TAILS comic.com. That one's done, but you can read the whole comic for free online. And yeah, just Google me and stalk me. That's the best way to do it.
You just gave the internet permission to stalk you. You do realize that, right?
Well, I mean, don't be too creepy about it. Just
Too late. You gave permission. It's over.
okay, yeah.
All right, Ethan, thank you very much for your time. Love the book, and I look forward to seeing more of your work.
Great, thank you so much,
Try
man.
and do the awkward handshake.
Yes, there we go.
Book in our hand.
Awesome.